everyone, and welcome to Positively Pro-Life, a podcast brought to you by the Pennsylvania Pro-Life Federation. Positively Pro-Life brings you inspiring stories, important legislative updates, and informative interviews to restore and strengthen a culture of life. I'm Bonnie Finnerty, Education Director at the Federation, and I am joined today by my colleague, Maria Gallagher, the Legislative Director at the Federation. Hello, Maria.
Hello, Bonnie. It's so good to be with you today.
So good to be with you. So Maria, we have another pro-life rock star as our guest today, a person who's doing incredible things. And I mean a lot of incredible life-affirming work in the city of brotherly love right here in Pennsylvania. Tom Stevens, President and CEO of the Pro-Life Union of Greater Philadelphia, is here to discuss his efforts to build a culture of life and to share details about the upcoming second annual Philadelphia March for Life. In addition, Maria is going to be giving us the lowdown on the Ultrasound Consent Act that has been introduced into the US Senate. But first, we'll begin with some inspiration. And this week, I'd like to share something a little different, a story that focuses not just on the beginning of life, but also the end of life. Recently, two dear elderly women that I know passed into eternal life. They both experienced a good death, surrounded by loving family. And that reminded me very much of my own mother's experience. Now, her death happened to coincide with my start here at the Federation. And I wrote about that experience in my very first article as the Education Director. And I'd like to share it with our podcast audience. I hope you find some inspiration in her story. On January 18th, 2019, I eagerly accepted the position of Education Director here at the Federation. My former career as a teacher, coupled with my lifelong advocacy of life issues, led me to believe that this was the perfect job at the perfect time. I was blessed to work with authentically kind, compassionate, and committed people with whom I felt an instant bond. The overwhelming joy I felt at this new chapter in my life, however, was tempered just 3 days later when we learned that my very active, vibrant 82-year-old mother had pancreatic cancer, and her doctor surmised that she might live until Easter. Well, suddenly everything was reprioritized. How could I best spend these last precious months with my mom, and how could I ease her pain? And how could I help her and my dad, and indeed our whole family, including her beloved 16 grandchildren, prepare for her departure from this world? As it turns out, my mom did not have a few months. She actually had just 18 days. We were praying with her when she peacefully drew her last breath on February 8th. During her brief but intense illness, my mom endured excruciating pain, some from the cancer and some from the multiple blood clots that she had throughout her entire body. At times, she called out in prayer, imploring God to take her, as we, her loved ones, sat helplessly by, shedding tears as we stroked her face and held her hand. When witnessing the slow but inevitable death of a loved one, there is a dark temptation to end their pain and hasten their journey home through doctor-prescribed suicide. But our family and its matriarch knew that that was not our call. While we sought the best palliative care for her, we knew that there was a plan, a timetable, a moment long ago decided, where she would transition into eternal life. And as hard as her path was to get there, our job was to love her on her way as best we could. During those 18 days, my mother gave us the ultimate pro-life witness, the peaceful surrender to life's natural course, bravely bearing her suffering and giving us comfort with her courage, patience, and steadfast faith. Such a testimony echoed a climatic moment 32 and now 35 years earlier when I had returned home from college my freshman year to tell her that I was pregnant. Seeing me crying in the kitchen, she became alarmed and thought the very worst. And I could hardly speak the words to tell her the news. But when I did, her reaction was priceless. She said, "Is that all? I thought you were dying. A baby, we can handle a baby." Having lost a 16-year-old daughter in a car accident many years earlier, my mother believed that the worst thing a parent could endure was the loss of a child. So she viewed my unexpected pregnancy not as an occasion for tears, but rather a chance to joyfully welcome new life. Sadly, this lesson was reinforced all the more a few weeks later when my brother and his wife lost their first child to sudden infant death syndrome. We grieved the loss of baby Ashley while treasuring the life growing within my 18-year-old body. So is it any wonder that I now work for a pro-life organization, one whose mission is committed to promoting the dignity and value of human life from conception to natural death? On my last outing with my mom, just days after learning of her illness, I had the opportunity to share where I would be working. Pulling up in front of our office, I explained what I would be doing, and she was genuinely happy for me, knowing that I was honored to be doing this work. She didn't mention it to me then, but I then learned after her death that my mother had been a financial supporter of the Pennsylvania Pro-Life Federation going back to 1990 when we all still lived in Scranton. Back then, she couldn't have foreseen me working here, but now that I am, I feel sure that she is blessing our good efforts from the other side. Maria.
Bonnie, thank you so much for that inspirational story. The following is from a news release from National Right to Life. Senator Roger Marshall, a Republican from Kansas, introduced legislation that would require abortionists to make an ultrasound available to a woman seeking an abortion. Senator Marshall is a medical doctor specializing in obstetrics. We thank Senator Marshall for his dedication and commitment to protecting both women and their unborn children, said Carol Tobias, president of National Right to Life. As a physician, Senator Marshall understands that mothers need as much information as possible before making the life or death decision of abortion for her unborn child. This legislation would give women the vital information they need before making a life-changing decision. The Ultrasound Informed Consent Act is designed to give women the option of observing an ultrasound of their unborn child before having an abortion. The language of the bill is based on legislation developed by National Right to Life. Currently, 28 states have some requirements providing ultrasounds to pregnant mothers prior to an abortion. 6 of these states have passed the revised NRLC model Right to Know and See that requires an ultrasound to be performed and displayed for the mother to see. 22 states have passed an earlier NRLC model, Opportunity to View, which requires that any ultrasound performed must allow the mother the opportunity to see her baby. Ultrasound legislation is in effect in 26 of the 28 states, with 2 states, North Carolina and Montana, not in effect due to litigation. While this reasonable legislation should attract bipartisan support, nearly every Democrat in Congress rejects even the most common sense protections for women and their unborn children, said Tobias. This is not the dark ages, and in making such a decision, women need to be given information, not kept in the dark. On February 28th, Senate Democrats, led by Senator Chuck Schumer, failed to invoke cloture on the so-called Women's Health Protection Act, a bill that would have enshrined abortion in federal law and policies and overridden nearly all existing state laws. No Republicans supported the measure, and they were joined in their opposition by only one Democrat, Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia. This legislation would have made sweeping changes, including expanding taxpayer funding of abortion and eliminating requirements that a woman be given information about the development of her unborn child so she can make an informed decision. History shows that if women are given the opportunity to review all the facts about abortion, especially when given a chance to see an ultrasound of their unborn child, they are less likely to have an abortion, said Jennifer Popick, Legislative Director for National Right to Life. The more women know and understand about their unborn children, the more they choose life. Bonnie.
Thank you so much, Maria. And I am delighted to introduce today's guest. Tom Stevens is President and CEO of the Pro-Life Union of Greater Philadelphia. He also serves as President CEO of Guiding Star Ministries Home for Pregnant Moms. He is a senior leader of the House of God's Light Community and is a board member of Life Turning Point Family Shelter. He is passionate about educating individuals about the tragic truth of abortion, providing effective alternatives to abortion, developing creative programs to enable individuals to break free from the cyclical culture of death, and fighting to end legal abortion. As leader of the Pro-Life Union, Tom seeks to unite many organizations as each fulfills their mission with excellence, bringing about the end of the culture of death as quickly as possible. Tom rejoices in the gift of family and is grateful to be the husband of Anne and the father to 5 children. Tom prays that every parent everywhere would recognize the abundant life available to them. Welcome, Tom.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. Appreciate the invite.
Tom, how did you come to hold your pro-life views?
Well, you know what? I grew up in such a great Catholic family that it was just always there. Just we always went to church. There was a lot of religious get-togethers that we had, and it just was clearly there. However, when I was in high school, I joined the culture, and I started to live an immoral lifestyle. So I had no idea that it was happening, but I really was not pro-life when I was in high school or early college, because I was pro-immorality, and it wasn't until I had a reversion experience in college at Villanova University that really I became pro-life, because as soon as you sort of grasp faith and the life in Jesus, then of course you're pro-life. And so thank God I'm back in the fold and became pro-life then. The one thing I'm grateful for, Maria, is that I had that experience of being away from the faith and living in an immoral lifestyle, because I get it. I get how people can just be so blinded and have no idea what they're doing and have no idea what they're supporting. And so it gives me insight, and I understand why people can't listen to logical reasoning.
Why did you decide to become involved with the Pro-Life Union?
Wow. Well, I was in business for 25 years, and I was just at a point in my career where I just couldn't do it anymore. It was like as if I was working in a hardware store selling hammers, and nothing against people who work in hardware stores, but there wasn't a mission that having an impact. And finally, I sat down with a pastor friend of mine, and he said, well, Tom, what's holding you back? And so there was an opening at the Pro-Life Union, and I was so attracted to the work that Pro-Life Union was doing. And I loved that not only was it a group that was promoting pro-life, that was recruiting people to the sidewalks in front of abortion centers, but also there were real works like Guiding Star Ministries, our home for pregnant moms, that I just was so enticed to be part of. Like, wow, I could be not only the educational part, but also that I could be overseeing a work, something that was helping moms and babies, children. And so I'm so glad I got the job offer. And you know what, when I first met the board, it was incredible. It was almost just one of those experiences where you just know this is the right place. I met these people, and they're all saints. They're all the people on the board of directors. They're so just zealous to help people, to promote life, to rescue people on the sidewalks, and they're all servants. It's a privilege to work with these leaders. And so I'm glad I was attracted. I'm glad I chose. And the one part of the answer I guess I'll add is my wife said, okay. And she had to, my wife Ann, she now works 3 part-time jobs, and she's really busy because I wanted to do this. And it's great that she said yes.
It's a team effort.
That's right.
Yeah. Tom, can you tell us about some of the activities or outreach sponsored by the Pro-Life Union?
Yeah, so I mean, first and foremost, we've always been doing the recruiting volunteers to be in front of the abortion centers, and so 40 Days got started about 7 years ago here in Philadelphia, and Sidewalk Servants, we have Dr. Monique Ribeiro and Patrick Stanton started that, and so every day, 365 days a week, when the abortion clinics are open, we want to have 2 people there, and it's grown to that. We almost always have at least 1 person at the Philadelphia clinics, and it's so important. 1/2 of the 2 million people who the babies that have been aborted in the greater Philadelphia area. And so, I mean, it's so drastic. There's 18,000 babies every year in the 5-county Philadelphia area that are aborted. And so it's so necessary that we're there to pray and to reach out to moms as they're going into an abortion center. And so that's one. We just started up a program last year. It's called the Cenacle. And Cenacle means upper room, and it's an outreach in Frankfurt. Frankfurt section is a very impoverished section of Philadelphia. And the goal of the program is to be a pro-life outreach and a community center where we're partnered with Catholic Social Services. We're meeting with moms, we're having parenting classes, we're giving out a lot of diapers and wipes and infant clothes and so much. We've served 650 families since we started last July. But part of the way the dream came about for that was standing in front of abortion clinics and saying, how the heck can we get to these moms before they ever make an abortion appointment? And we got to be in the communities, especially in areas where churches have had to shut down. And so we have family dinners there, we have free laundry service, and we're just trying to make it a place where people would want to come. So then when a pregnancy happens, folks know that, hey, you ought to go to the Cenacle and receive some help. There's other ways you can have the support that you need.
Can you share with us some Pro-Life Union success stories?
Sure. I mean, I think one success is, well, first of all, of course, success stories are every single baby that is alive because volunteers have been recruited to be in front of those abortion clinics. And this fall, we had a lot. Sometimes we had, in 1 month, we had 4 or 5, 6 that women that chose life. And we had a baby that was just born recently, a abortion pill reversal that is just so exciting to have. Dr. Monique Ribeiro, who was part of our board for a lot of years, she's the one, or at least one of the ones, who receives the call in Philadelphia, and that was one of her patients. And so, number one, it's moms who've been spared, babies who are alive. But also, we've had a lot of great large events in Philadelphia. And one that I just thought was such a success was we're in 2020, July of 2020, COVID is happening, and we were able to have an event. 500 people came, in Philadelphia. We called it Let Freedom Ring. And we were able to be in front of an abortion clinic. And just to have those people, when you have a large event, it's always inspirational, and it's also educational. And you might have several people who've never been involved before. And so that was so great. And then last year, when we had our first Philadelphia March for Life, we had 1,500 people that came, and it was cold day in January. And we were just so thrilled because we were still in the COVID, where people barely were out, and just to proclaim the truth that life is worth it, and that abortion is just a farce. We need to let people know. And we marched by the worst abortion clinic in Pennsylvania. 6,500 plus abortions every year at Philadelphia Women's Center, right in Center City. And then we went to Independence Mall and had a rally. This year, we're doing the same. We're going to have Kristen Hawkins, president of the Students for Life, and several other great speakers, including Tony McFadden, who has just a great testimony. And it's going to be a great day. 26th of March. It's a Saturday. Starts at 8:30 with Mass. 9:30, we'll have a praise and prayer service for folks who are not Catholic. And then 10:30, we'll start the march. And we'll go from the cathedral down past that abortion center again, and then to Independence Mall. And I hope everybody who's watching or listening will come join us. We need you there. We've got to proclaim that life is worth it, that the unborn, they're humans and they deserve to live. And in this season, we need to let people know that Pennsylvania really is a pro-life state. We hear so much about the pro-choicers and reproductive rights, but Pennsylvania, most Pennsylvanians believe that life begins at conception.
Tom, pro-life work is not for the faint of heart. There's a lot of challenges. So I'm curious as to what or who inspires you to persevere in this mission amidst so many obstacles.
Great question. St. Maximilian Kolbe, some of you know his story. He's in a concentration camp and he gives his life for a man who's a husband and has children. And I mean, that inspires me every day. John Stanton, founder of our organization, I asked him to pray for me. He's just such a great, holy man who served, and his son Patrick, who's on our board, just giving it all, and all our board members and volunteers, some who are just out there so early in the morning in front of abortion centers. There's folks who are working in pregnancy resource centers, and we have member organizations that we have 25 member organizations, and the folks who are involved in all these different works, that they help me keep going. And when I get depressed, just seeing these folks who have given their whole lives, so many years, for the pro-life cause.
Well, there's great hope that the current Dobbs case in front of the Supreme Court may overturn Roe. If that happens, how do you think the pro-life movement will be changed, and how will that change your organization in particular?
Well, unfortunately, I'd like to put ourselves out of business. I would not. I'd be very happy to not need a pro-life union, but Roe changes, and we're still the same in Pennsylvania. So. We have really got to go all out to change the law in Pennsylvania, and we can do that two ways, right? We can get a pro-life governor, and so make sure people know here's the pro-lifers running for governor, and then secondly, there's the Life Amendment, that is moving through. And if we can have that on the ballot next year, that would be a way that we could have a constitutional amendment that would bring about a change where abortion is illegal, rather than it going the other way and getting worse than it is now. The pro-aborts are trying to have an amendment that would make abortion a right and get the Pennsylvania Control Act eliminated. And so Roe v. Wade, we're excited, really excited for, and the states that have trigger laws and would instantly have abortion be illegal, that would be great. But for Pennsylvania, we have an uphill battle, really, and yeah. So we're still going to be at it.
If people are in the greater Philadelphia region and they want to learn more about the Pro-Life Union, what should they do?
Go to our website. There is a ton of great information at prolifeunion.org, prolifeunion.org. And we would, the first thing that you see is an opt-in for our email and list, and we send out weekly emails. We'd love to have you on that, and that would put you in the know with what's going on with the Pro-Life Union and also with the pro-life movement in Greater Philadelphia.
We've got just about a minute left. I'm wondering, are you hopeful at this stage of the game, or are you concerned? What are your feelings about the life issue right now?
Well, I'm hopeful at what's happening nationally. I'm really excited, and what's happened in Mississippi and Texas and some other states. I'm really hopeful, and I'm hopeful because of my faith. I mean, miracles happen, and I'm hopeful for that. And I'm very concerned for Pennsylvania. I am really concerned, and so we've got to fight and find ways to work together across the state to keep the Pennsylvania Control Act and to get a constitutional amendment and to elect a pro-life governor.
Tom Stevens of the Pro-Life Union, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Bonnie, Maria, glad to be here.
Thank you, Tom.
Positively Pro-Life is made possible through the generous support of organizations throughout the Commonwealth. We thank you for joining us. And remember, there's always a reason to choose life.